was good. He hated her time, which was 34. It was 53. He said, I've never had so much before in my life. So you can't
Which I heard her
like she has
No, I don't think
yeah, so she was out all last. So she has another swim meet on Wednesday. They're going to Topeka, so they'll be at the Topeka National area. Oh, okay, very good.
Okay.
I better.
Now, when you're going to talk, I need you to put it down so I can hear you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. We will call this meeting to order. At this time, we will have invocation by Pastor Brad Green.
Let's go, Lord, in prayer. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this time. Lord, I pray for all these city officials and leaders, Lord. Be with them in their decision making. Lord, we just thank you for their service to our city. And Lord, we just ask you that as things happen in the city, that your light is shown bright. And Lord, as we have first responders out there, keep them safe. And Lord, as we just come before you right now, again, I just ask for wisdom and discernment for the decisions that are being made right now. In your Son's name, amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, we will have a proclamation. And I don't know if anyone is here representing. Yes, okay, wonderful. If you'd like to please come and stand at the podium there, and I will read our proclamation. All right. Whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for planting of trees, and whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, La Rochelle Young, Mayor of the City of Atchison, do hereby proclaim the April 26th, 2024 as Arbor Day in the city of Atchison, Kansas, and I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Dated this day, 15th day of April, 2024. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, as they say, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best is today.
Absolutely.
So-
Thank you so much. And we appreciate you. Oh, are we going to take a picture? Okay. Why don't you? I'll come to you.
John, is there anywhere where citizens can get saplings these days?
Oh, we haven't ordered any. Something hasn't been.
Okay.
There are plenty of.
Right.
Thank you, John.
Okay, Tina, if you would please call the roll.
Mayor Young,
Present?
Vice Mayor Wilcox,
Present?
Commissioner Greenlee,
Present.
Commissioner Murphy,
Present.
Commissioner Slattery.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will have a presentation from the Atchison Event Center, first quarter 2024 financial presentation, and February and March 2024 monthly reports. Mr. Grossman.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Available for any questions you guys might have. You can kind of notice that when you looked at that last quarter's report, we were behind the black button by about a little over $12,000. We've been able to come back up. I mentioned we'd had a good January. That was awful helpful and unforeseen. So it's a funny thing about this business. You just never, it's not like we can figure out when things are going to ebb and flow. It changes just about every year. So we just take it when we can and just hold on to the money when we have to, which is coming up. The next 3 weeks are pretty light up at the event center. So we'll just be waiting for the next big thing to happen. But if there's any questions you have about the financials or anything about the event center, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
How is the booking looking throughout the spring and then into the summer? Can you explain?
It's looking okay. We've got a mix of events. We don't have as many weddings booked currently as we have had in the past. I think I mentioned the last time when we first came out of COVID, we came out of the gate screaming. We had 13 weddings. Mm-hmm. Last year, I think we had a total of 7. And this year, I think I've got 3 on the books, and we're talking to 2 more that haven't committed. So but we do have, and I don't know if the chamber will tell you about this or not, we did speak with a group that's bringing a Lego convention to town, which I found to be fascinating. I've always enjoyed Legos as a rule, but they have really grown in their popularity and with adults as well as kids. And this is a 3-day event, and they're going to bring people in from Kansas City, Leavenworth, all the way up north of us. It sounds like it's going to be a big deal, so that's exciting. So the business is a little different, not as traditional in terms of back in the day when I was on this board, probably 2005, I bet we had 20 to 23 weddings in a year, and then everybody began to get married in barns, or at least have their receptions in barns. They still use churches traditionally, but then we have a reception. That shabby chic became real popular, and then the event center kind of waned off. Those types of venues waned off, and I felt like the pendulum's kind of swinging back in our direction. Everybody has seen all of their friends and sisters and youngers getting married and then having events in barns and things of that nature. They want something different, so the formal is becoming a little more popular, so hopefully that hammer will swing up again. We can enjoy that going forward. But as of yet, the weddings are down. We do have the regular events scheduled. We have our Christmas parties already blocked out for December and things like that.
Okay, I see. Well, the Lego convention sounds interesting.
agree.
When is that?
That's in November, and I believe you might be able to, you spoke with them today, and they can tell you, but it is, that's when they were thinking about it. I don't know if they've changed the date or not, so.
Okay, fantastic.
Was your whiskey tasting
It was a lot of fun, and
more or less
honestly.
than the previous year?
It was a little less, and I think it was probably because Benedictine Scholarship Ball was that same Saturday, which that kind of, I think we won't do that again. We figured out we know when that's going to be, and we'll figure out when to put our event down. It mattered a little bit in order to get our VIPs, our special guest speakers in, which was Stephen Beam from Kentucky. We needed to get that date for him, and I wanted him here. But that said, we had almost 100 folks here. And it was the best, most organized event we'd had, so that was pretty cool. Really neat opportunity for Atchison.
Okay.
I was just curious, have you got a marketing strategy or plan for the next 6 months, 8 months?
In terms of a strategy, no. What we've been doing, we're taking some opportunities to advertise, like we always do, and for the weddings. And the reason I like to pick on the weddings is because they're large events. It's like a a rainstorm versus a trickle. You can get a whole bunch of business done in one night with the same amount of staff that you can do sometimes in 3 weeks with 4 times as many staff members. You probably remember those days. So we've been putting advertisements in certain St. Joe's newspapers, and also then the newer local newspaper has an opportunity coming up for us. They've got I don't know if it's an insert, what it is, but color glossy, we're buying the back inside ad page for. So going forward, we have more advertising opportunities that we've laid out as far as a strategy as where to go and where to get. We're doing everything we can to kind of keep our name out there and make ourselves available. We're meeting people on the weekends and the evenings whenever brides and or folks that want to use the room, Saturdays, whenever it is, we can be available. We're there. So.
Do you use any sort of social media? Have you utilized that at all?
So that's a great question. We do and did more so. I think the city of Atchison had an event center page at one time, and it got hacked just recently.
Right.
Because of that, I don't know that we've got access to that, or do you know, Amy?
I don't know. Elizabeth's helping us with
Okay.
that, but none of our current staff members have access to the page, as
Right.
far as I understand.
And nor do we. And we did before, and we got bumped out of it somehow. So it's a good point, La Rochelle. We should probably look into that and see what it's going to take to get that back up and running.
Okay.
Which it was a loss. I mean, when the hackers got into that and started posting the gold panning and we lost a lot of followers we'd had for years on that. But yeah, that's a good point. It's time to rebuild that.
Okay, hopefully we can.
Agreed. And we'll probably need to do that in conjunction with the city. That way it's an mutually owned or at least used social media platform.
Absolutely, and where it can be protected.
Amen.
Obviously. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Grossman? All right, thank you.
I'm glad you guys got moved more up the itinerary.
All right. Excellent. Thank you, guys. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Okay, next we will have Chamber and Tourism by Jim Rowland.
Madam Mayor, members of the commission, if you have questions about the financials, I think I will point out one very specific thing because you did have some questions about membership last night. Go ahead and take a message for me. No. You can tell by our financials that was a fallacy. That notion that somehow we were down half of our membership was utterly false. We budgeted 68,000, we're at 62,165. We have a larger check coming in from a trust account for one of our larger businesses that comes in June, July. So that'll take us to budget. So we're on budget for what we had planned for. You'll see by our financials that are extraordinarily strong and continue to be really strong. As far as tourism, in May, we are doing a event that's Build Your Own Bouquet on May 11th, right before Mother's Day. Again, that's our monthly event to draw people into downtown. June, we're doing a Taste of Haunted, which is June 11th and 12th. Those tickets went on sale last night at midnight, and we're getting close to selling out within 24 hours, so it will go very fast. We're doing Haunted, Trolleys, Sally House, Shocktail. We're doing everything that we would do in October, we're doing it mid-year, again, as a build-up to the Haunted season. In July, we have a large conference that's coming into Benedictine that we have handled the transportation for, as well as they have a free night, and we are making sure that they're staying in town. Somebody flippantly said that maybe they ought to go to the Legends, and we were shocked and grabbed them and found a way to get them to all of our assets. So we are spreading people out all across the city so they don't hit the restaurants all at the same time, and they can take advantage of all of our cultural activities that we have going on. So they're going to multiple assets throughout the city during that free evening.
What are those dates again?
11th and 12th
Of what month?
June. I'm sorry, July, 9th through the 12th. Muddy River, we just announced our lineup became official. We have 3 Nashville recording artists coming to the riverfront on September 21st. Jill and I were just down at Service Brewery, so we were in conversations with Courtney about the opening of the brewery, as well as the ability to do outreach for them to be part of their communication arm and build up to the actual opening. And then we were talking details about Muddy River and how we can collaborate. So that's pretty exciting. As Travis stole our thunder, Lego Convention's coming in November, another fun event for us. Main Street America comes to the community in July for a equitable entrepreneurial ecosystem building day. We were actually awarded a $10,000 grant by way of Main Street America. So that's pretty exciting. We're able to use that to kind of fund the ecosystem building that we're already doing. We continue to work with brand new businesses in nurturing them, assisting them, Naomi Rose being a new one. So we're going gangbusters and excited about what's happening.
So I'm interested, the haunting tasting, you said that was nearly full. So is that mainly, can you tell if that's mainly from Atchisonians?
Oh, no, no one from Atchison.
Oh, okay, I
No,
see.
Haunted, for the most part, we'll do some trolleys in September, October that may be local, but people will come up to visit. So it might be a couple people that are local, but overall, matter of fact, yesterday, we had it was today. We had someone flying in from Los Angeles, going to the airport, renting a car, and coming to the Sally House for tonight.
Wow,
They were coming from all across the country, almost never from Atchison.
Interesting, okay, very good.
We have our chamber board or the folks there lining up to actually have their houses become haunted. So because
You put my house on the list, and I'll put a bucket out there, they just drive $20.
again, I mean, for those of you that are new, when I started, the largest year that they had in 2019 for Sally House, they did $38,000 in bookings. We pushed everything to online, so it's an online booking. We do very specific micro-targeting using a social media strategy that we're employing, and we're up to almost $150,000 a year. Just with a marketing strategy with some dollars put behind it and being very specific about who we're targeting. What we have found overall is that obviously the old methodology of advertising, you throw something in the Globe and you do something on CARE, which are still great outlets, but it's part of the whole. Social media allows us to target down to very specific human beings that have very specific interests. And for $150 a month through Facebook, we could get upwards of $10,000 or more dollars in bookings. So that return on investment is insane, so.
Has Sally asked for any kickback on this?
She
yet?
does not.
Okay.
The owner of the property does though, so, but I believe he's pretty content with us.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And you mentioned the new brewery that we will be having here. So I'm assuming that we're getting more businesses returning to the chamber. Do you have new ones?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we get new people every month.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, wonderful. Okay, any questions?
Thanks so much, appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. All right, at this time, we will open for public forum. Persons who wish to address the city commission regarding items that are not on the agenda may do so at this time when called upon by the mayor. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes and should give their name and address when addressing the commission. Any presentation is for information purposes only. And I see we have a gentleman. Please state your name, sir, and your address.
Yes, my name is Alva Madden. I live at 16901 290th Road, across the street from the airport project. And I have a concern about dust control. I've called Clint several times. It doesn't seem to do any good out there. They run all that equipment. They got a whole road right in front of my house, and it all blows from the south into my house. Now, I've called Clint several times, and it got a little better because they quit running dump trucks, but they still run all kinds of equipment up and down that road, creating the dust. The water truck hadn't run since Friday for some reason. It hadn't run at all today. They were out there Saturday working, and it didn't run on Saturday. And it didn't run all Friday afternoon that I know. I was gone all Friday morning, so I don't know when the last time to run it. But they need to get it running every day, several times a day on that Hall Road.
All right. Any questions? Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that.
Yes.
All right. Any other any other persons for the public forum? If not, we will move on and close the public forum. At this time, we will move forward with the consent agenda by City Manager Amy Finch.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Your consent agenda this afternoon includes approval of the minutes from the March 27th, 2024 Special City Commission meeting and approval of the minutes from the April 1st, 2024 City Commission meeting, approval of the following occupational licenses: American Legion Fleming Jackson Seaver Post Number 6, Fox Theater Atchison, and the Whiskey Depot, and approval of resolution number 3386 for Friday Night on the River and Concert in the Sky for the Amelia Earhart Festival special event permits.
Does anyone have any questions for Amy regarding the consent agenda?
I move we adopt it.
Okay, it's been moved that we adopt the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in...
I got a question. Are there any significant changes to Amelia weekend? Anybody's aware of?
Nope, I think last year was the major change where they moved, instead of the Lake Fest moving to the concert by the river. That will be the same this year as it was last year. I don't think there's any. Clinton, Chief Wilson, do you know of any major changes? I'm not aware of any. Okay, should be primarily the same, I think.
All right, any other questions? Okay, if not, all of those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. All right, at this point, we are going to open new business, and at this time, I move that we remove number 2, rezone request, 920 North 4th Street. In Atchison, we had a request that will no longer be an item that the individuals will be seeking at this time.
You need a motion?
Yes, I just moved. So is there a second?
I'll second.
Wonderful. It's been moved and seconded that we that we strike the 920 North 4th Street rezone request. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, at this time, we will move to our board openings. And as I understand it, we have one applicant, Sterling Falk, for the historic, he's from Historic Preservation, and it is for the Design Review Committee. And I will nominate Mr. Sterling Falk as a representative from Historic Preservation for the Design Review Committee to serve, to have 3 years. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we appoint Sterling Falk as representative for Historic Preservation on the Design Review Committee for 3 years. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. At this time, we don't, as I understand it, have any other applicants for any of the other boards. Those boards being Budget and Audit Committee, and another representative needed for the Design Review Committee, and then 2 citizens at large for the Library Board. So just would encourage our citizens to go on our webpage and take a look at the boards that we need filling. So appreciate that.
There's 2 in the Budget Audit Committee, and I'll re-advertise now, because someone resigned.
Okay.
I'll re-advertise.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tina.
Can I just
Yes,
say something?
yes, sir.
Is there on these board openings, we've gone through this since we've come on the commission back in December, and is there something that we can do different to attract people, or are we, how are we attracting people? to these boards, particularly, I would think people would want to be on the library board, you know, I just, seems like we're battling this uphill.
Sure.
And I'm just wondering.
You look good on the library.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
No, I'm just curious if there's
Right.
something we should do it, is there anything?
Right, I understand that, and
Yes.
I share your concern, Commissioner.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're on
if-
Facebook, CARE, and the Globe.
And
And
word
our
of mouth.
website.
Yeah.
For this round, I think the library also did some advertising on their Facebook page. So I think other members of the boards that we're trying to fill would be helpful if they know someone that they think would be a good addition to the board, or if you all know of someone, definitely reaching out to them and having them submit.
How often these boards meet?
It really depends on which one. Like the design review committee hasn't met yet because it's a new committee and probably will not have a regular schedule, but would be based on applicants that come in.
Budget.
That one meets at least annually, so they meet and hear from the auditors. And then, Justin, that's the committee that serves as our financial review board for our like e-community and Grow Kansas loans. So I don't know, what would you say, 4 to 6 times a year maybe, depending on the flow?
Library board.
I believe they meet monthly.
Yes, I think it's once a month. Once a month. But I think as commissioners, we should, like you suggested that you've done, that we just really take it upon ourselves to, when we know people in the community and we think that they may be interested in becoming more active, that we really encourage them to join one of the boards. And like Tina mentioned, we do have it on Facebook, we have it on our website, but I think as commissioners, we should take it upon ourselves to really advertise these as well.
If someone is interested in a particular board, a member of the public, and wants more information, they can certainly reach out to us. We can answer it, or we can put them in contact with like the chair of the board they're interested in to get a little bit more information as well.
All right. Any other discussion? Okay, no, I think that was appropriate, so thank you. Okay, next, we will have Community Development Block Grant Housing Rehabilitation Grant Writing Contract, and that will be presented by Justin Prejean.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a contract request with a company that we've gotten familiar with here at the City of Atchison over the last few years. We know them as Government Assistance Services. That is a DBA. Their actual company name, I think, is called Western Resources or something. You can read it in the Western Consultants, sorry. So I'm going to refer to them as GAS or Government Assistance Services because that's how I know them, but just recognize that in the motion they have a slightly different name. So this is a piggyback on a workshop that we had recently regarding an unused portion of the city's ARPA funds. There was a couple $100,000 of the city's 1.6-ish million that came from the federal government in the American Rescue Plan Act that was set aside for housing programming. That's proven a little bit more difficult to utilize in the fashion that it was originally conceived for a number of reasons. But this is I think, a clever way to access other resources. It's a good use of our resources and sort of takes some of the problems that we were encountering trying to use this funding and funnels them through a methodology that has been in place for 20 plus years through the Community Development Block Grant Program. So the idea behind that initial $200,000 that the city had set aside for housing support, the idea or the intent was to help lower income, single family homeowners take care of their properties. You drive around the city and there are roofs that need to be replaced, there are porches that need support, there are windows, there's all kinds of these types of homeowner updates that need to be made. But when you're making decisions in a group setting like this and you say like, all right, well, we're going to build this program, how do we set it up? And the first thing somebody says is, okay, well, we don't want to help landlords. We want it to be single-family homeowners. Okay, everybody, You might have somebody disagree with that, but mostly people say like, yeah, that's who we want to help. Homeowner or landlords are running a business. We want to help folks that are struggling to stay in their home. Okay. We want to help people who are lower income. You know, if somebody's got the money to do it, we don't want to help them. Okay. They have to have code violations. Okay. Well, but they ought to have some skin in the game. You know, we don't just going to give it out for free. You know, you should have to put in a little bit. And all of a sudden you build this program requirement and there's nobody in the middle of that where all those circles overlap. You also, to get through something like this, have to have a certain amount of bureaucratic endurance. I've really taken to using that phrase recently. And if you do happen to have somebody in the middle of all of those circles and you hand them an application document that's 7 pages long, they're not real interested in filling it out. And so what GIS does is they fight through all of that for you. They have experience doing that. GIS actually did, the last time the city of Atchison received a community development block grant in the housing rehabilitation category, GIS did the administration of it. That would have been back in 2007, 2008, quite a bit before I was even here. And so the parameters of this opportunity are that for this grant writing contract is for, I think it's about $12,450 if my memory serves me correctly. That does two things. GIS has to update something called a housing assessment tool. Can't get through more than a sentence up here without some sort of new acronym to remember. The HAT, Housing Assessment Tool, has to be updated because ours is now out of date. So they will do that for us, and they will apply for this grant until we win for $12,450. The grant would be for $300,000. There are some additional tack-ons that are possible, but we can get to those later. And you need to know that if we are successful in that effort, GIS is going to require a $35,000 grant administration fee. You might think that sounds excessive, but fighting through all of the steps to meet all of the criteria to do this is very time intensive. You have to do that personally. It's a lot of trips back and forth. And so, in your mind anyway, in my mind, I'm thinking about this as for $50,000 in administration expenses, GIS is going to go and win us a $300,000 housing rehabilitation award. I can't tell you today exactly where in Atchison that will be. I can't tell you the parameters of exactly who's eligible, what, can I fix my roof, can I fix my HVAC, can I redo my wood floors? I don't know the answers to those questions. I have not, you have to be somewhat brave to dive into something like this. It's not what I do, and I don't have any interest in learning that, which is why I didn't give you a proposal for my company to do it. That's what GIS does. They have the people who enjoy doing that. So the proposal in front of you is to hire them to do that. And instead of us having a total pot of $200,000 to address low-income, single-family style homes in the grid of the city here, we get $300,000 from the federal government, and we've only spent 50 of ours. Subsequently, during that workshop, we talked a little bit about doing some sort of a down payment assistance program to incentivize developers and builders to maybe build new houses on the missing teeth that we have throughout the grid of our community. That would be a subsequent consideration and is not part of the proposal that I've got in front of you today. All that you're doing today would be, effectively all you're doing would be awarding GIS the contract to write this grant and go and do it. When they are successful, we would not have access to the grant funds without that additional $35,000 administration expense, which is why I mentioned that, although you're not exactly approving that today. I probably missed something winding through that, so let me know what questions you have and we can, Amy, it looks like you maybe have.
So they decide what the parameters would be, or we get an input in?
I mean, they work for us, so CDBG, I think, wants you to target an area. And I'm not entirely certain what that means. I've been told from somebody that remembers that the last time around, 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago, there was a focus on South Atchison. There certainly could be another focus on South Atchison, or there could be one on North Atchison. I don't think there's enough. $300,000 goes pretty quick when you're doing really significant renovations of houses. So I'm not sure how far that will go, if we'll have to pick a 3 square block area and they may also have to, that may change over time because you may pick an area and then come to find out somebody knocks on the door and says, hey, I'm from the government, I'm here to help, I have free money to fix your house, and somebody closes the door and says, leave me alone. that happens a lot going into this kind of process. So I know that's not a great answer, but that's the best I can get my arms around. CDBG will ask for some sort of a target area, some sort of an intent. What's the angle? Where are you going? And we will certainly have input in that process. If you have input in that, please, certainly share it with me. We get to direct that process. It's not like we have to hand over the direction of that to GAS, but it's tough to know exactly how big, where is this house in? Can my neighbor get it? I can't answer those questions today.
I'm just thinking if we could leverage it, like a percentage, a smaller percentage than even like half and half, where you could help a lot more people. Give like a 20% toward fixing windows or something like that. That's what. Yeah,
some of that is beyond our control because like anything, when the feds create something, they drive the bus, and so we can play within their rules, but we can't go outside their rules. And I'm not familiar enough with them here. Once I would offer it up this way: before we push submit on the application, somebody from GAS that knows this program inside and out will stand here and have that conversation with you.
Before we commit to the 12,000.
If it's a deal breaker for you, then I suppose conceivably, yes. I would want to tell, I would want to go ahead, because to me, it doesn't matter if it's North Atchison, South Atchison. I don't care. I see an opportunity for leveraging outside resources, and I want to say yes to that. But certainly, if that's important to you, then you could make that motion.
So we couldn't go and pick individual homes that we know have issues. We have to pick is that the way I understand it?
I think Atchison is big enough that just that saying we're going to do this citywide is not as compelling as trying to do some sort of a target. If this works, we could be eligible again next year or the year after that. The reason, so we've been aware that CDBG housing is an opportunity for a number of years. The reason we haven't jumped into it is twofold. One, we were pursuing community facilities grants for sidewalks, LFM Park, a series of other things. Two, you do have to have the matching funds, and for housing, there has never been that pot of sort of matching housing funds that has existed. And third, CDBG housing has the reputation as being a really difficult administrative effort. Whereas if we got a similar sized community facilities grant, the administration fee would probably be $15,000. But in housing, it's $35,000 because the administration is so difficult. So, but if this works, we still have a corpus of housing funds that is there for that purpose. It's conceivable to me that we could do this every other year for a series of years if we've got the right grant partners, and GAS certainly appears to be that.
So I'm confused on the funding. So whether we got the funding or not, we put out $12,450, and they'll continue to pursue the 300.
Yes.
So they would administrate the 300. What about the 193 that we currently have? Will they administer that as well?
In my mind, in this effort, we're agreeing to use some of that 193. So we started at 200. We spent 7 helping Project Atchison do their neighborhood cleanup program last year. So 193, that's where 193 comes from. 193, if we agree to this, 12.5 comes from that 193. The 35,000 would come, in my mind anyway, from that 180. You're with me, okay?
152.
There you go. We would not, in my mind, be throwing that 152 into the same program as the Fed 300. I think it would be a bad decision to do that because federal money is mostly a positive thing, but it does come with it comes with strings, and construction cost escalation being one of them, because a lot of unless I'm mistaken, Davis-Bacon would be tied to that, and so the projects that get built with this, I think it's fair to say, have an inflated cost to them because of those federal requirements that are tied into it. Maybe somebody would argue with me about that, but that's certainly what I see and what I believe. You saw the LFM Park, estimates, and that's what happens with the federal money. And some places choose, not to go that route because, does that make more sense?
Yeah,
My
well,
intent
you still have approximately $150,000 the city would,
Yeah.
they'd have more flexibility with that funding.
yes.
It wouldn't be tied up with these.
Yeah, it would not be all thrown into this. We could accomplish this and still have 150-ish left to do other housing-related activities.
And so we could, in terms of the CDBG funding and targeting a certain area, we could look at code enforcement infractions, I would assume, would be a good
It's a
one.
necessary part of the interaction, for sure.
Okay. All right, very good. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Do we feel comfortable then moving toward a vote on this? Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, all right. It's been moved that we authorize the city manager to sign the grant writing contract with Western Consultants, DBA, Government Assistance Services in pursuit of a CDBG housing rehabilitation grant for $12,450. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been seconded. All those in favors, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you,
Thank you.
Justin. Okay, at this time, we will ask Clinton McNamee to come and present on right-of-way mowing contract.
All right, so what I've got to propose tonight is we want to look at it as a contract extension from last year's right-of-way mowing contract with Chalfant Lawn Care. Similar to our annual programs with electrical and plumbing services, some of these contracts that we do, we have 1-year extensions available up to, usually it's about 3 years. We'll do them consecutively if the vendor or contractor maintains their pricing, basically. So we'll go up to 3 years before we go back out for competitive bids. So Chalfant had this last year. We couldn't do the full scope because the price increase from last year versus the 2020 pricing. But we adjusted our budget for 2024 to be able to include all of it. And so with that, basically the price is $3,000 per mowing, up to a maximum of 18 mowings per year for K7, US 73, Woodlawn Avenue, Riverview Drive, and North Hills medians, and a US 59 highway as well. And that is a total of $54,000 for the year.
Do we have any questions for Clinton?
I'll move we do that.
Okay, all right. It's been moved that we authorize staff to hire Chalfant Lawrence for mowing services not to exceed $54,000 for the 2024 mowing season. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Clinton. At this point, we will be moving into executive session, and I believe staff has recommended 15 minutes. Okay, I would like to entertain a motion for us to move into executive session for 15 minutes, starting at 5:14, ending at 5:29. Is there a motion? It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, aye? Okay, all right, we have exited our executive session with no action. At this time, we will have communications by our City Manager Amy Finch.
All right, communications include your March 2024 financials. We have 2 letters we've received from the state of Kansas regarding the same project at 526 Commercial Street. First letter is from Department of Commerce. They are just confirming that the contract time extension for the Project completion is now January 31st of 2025. The second letter we received is from Department of Revenue confirming that the sales and compensating use tax exemption request for the Blackstone project at 526 Commercial Street has been approved for the industrial revenue bonds. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Amy. Okay, at this time, we'll have informational items by Clinton McNamee.
All right, as you may have seen, we posted on Facebook this last week to announce I guess I'll call it the commencement of the US 59 resurfacing project, starting at the Amelia Earhart Bridge at 4th Street and extending west to a point 800 feet west of 10th Street. The actual project's allotted 60 days, calendar days to get complete. Contractor, I think, has communicated something closer to the 30-day mark, as long as they don't encounter too many surprises as they do some of the more extensive repairs in the areas like 10th Street, for example, where you see the rutting in those lanes. That is, just for informational purpose for those watching, that is a KDOT funded project. KDOT funds $400,000 towards that project. It's a $689,798 project total. So the local match is $298,000 approximately. $289,000, sorry. The contractors indicated that they will close the outside lanes. So the outermost eastbound, outermost westbound lane. So traffic will move on the interior lanes first as they mill down, repair, and replace the outside lanes, and then they'll switch over, close the inside lanes. Traffic will be on the outside lanes. Most of the impact will probably be to the larger truck traffic because the turn lanes at 10th and Skyway will be closed for repairs, and they feel that the right turns for tractor trailers is going to be too sharp, so they are routing. For example, if you're traveling east on 59 and you want to turn right and go south on 73, they want you to go over 14th Street Viaduct before you even get to 10th Street, go right on Main, and then go right onto 10th, and then straight through the intersection. Or if you're going west on 59 and want to go right onto 10th, go north, instead go all the way to 14th, get on Main, and proceed from there. So,
Clinton, at what point will they close the turn lanes?
I don't know that
Okay.
exact date. My thought from the pre-con meeting is that work would begin pretty early in the process. So today was probably a lot of traffic control type work, and then once they get into the full depth repairs, I think you'll see those closures. So, and then US 73, Botteroff Construction will be doing the replacement of those cracked concrete panels in the southbound lanes, kind of in the area between Patriot and Green Street. That they have communicated in a pre-con meeting that they would like to begin that on April 29th. That is also, I think that's a 70-day project. Things work out smoothly. We think that that'll be a shorter time frame, but all traffic will be routed both directions, north and south, onto what is now the northbound lanes, so the east side, and street department's providing all the traffic control devices and management of that part of it. And, but yeah, that's supposed to occur on April 29th and last at least a month. But if I had to, get my crystal ball out, I'd say 4 to 6 weeks, but perhaps longer if they encounter bad weather or surprises underneath the concrete. So,
What does traffic control devices entail?
mostly traffic cones, signage. There'd be things like speed limit
So
signs.
the traffic lights will still be functional all directions.
The yeah, the 73 project does not affect the traffic lights, nor does the 59 project, although I will say that there could be points where they are out actively directing traffic if they are working in a certain area. Same thing with like private driveways and things. Those will remain open, but there's going to be a point where the milling machine passes by, or the paver, or the striping, and so there'll be, temporary delays here and there, but nothing, no closures long-term, I should say it that way. And then the 73 project, there are no drives within that stretch. That shouldn't affect anybody other than everybody's going to be driving on the east side of the medians and a little slower.
Something you might consider, if we think we need to do it, if we could tell Bartlett down there, or give them maybe some handouts on how to make that detour, it'd sure expedite everything. They got some guys that go in there regularly,
Mm-hmm.
They could get to those truck drivers and they can know about this detour right up.
I reached out.
Simple.
I reached out to Bartlett and the hospital, Walmart, MGP.
I was just thinking.
I didn't get any replies, but so far we haven't received too many questions. I think we had a farmer that's delivering some farming equipment, call the shop today and ask about some of the, because they thought they might have too wide of a load maybe to fit down the one lane on 59, but so far it's been quiet. So.
Well, Bartlett's got that website where they send you information.
Mm-hmm.
Send that out. I bet you they do it.
Is there any questions on the highways? All right, the second one, I didn't print I won't be able to quote you exact numbers. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we talked about this. I want to say it was the last meeting or the meeting before. The commission had authorized staff to move forward with a reimbursement agreement with the Rural Water District Number 5 concerning relocating water lines out of the way of the runway project at the airport. In the time since, we did finalize that agreement and execute it, and so this is basically just reporting that that is finished. The project is moving forward. They're ordering the materials, and we're not expecting any major delays with that component of the project. The gas line is a whole nother issue, but this particular part of the project seems to be going fairly smoothly right now. The total agreement is, I think it's 624. I don't see that listed there. It's the 10%. So it's 571 is total project, which includes construction costs and their legal fees associated with their administrative fees, some surveying costs there, plus 10%. I think it puts it up to like 624,000 potential. Again, 90% of whatever that cost will end up officially being will be covered by the FAA. And so I'm estimating right now that the city's share after FAA funding and KDOT funding will be somewhere around 37,000, or about 5% of that cost. Any questions on that? Well, and then last meeting, we talked a little bit about potential of using some city properties for, call it hay ground, pasture ground, for the purpose of letting it grow, leasing it out to folks that, to do those baling operations. We talked about the airport was one. I went back and kind of looked up some more information. After that latest land acquisition, we've got around it's over 200 acres that we have out there, which is over twice as much as what we have been accustomed to maintaining. I'm very open to the idea of, not having to mow that. We've even looked at possibility of having some of it farm ground, although since the project has come closer to fruition, I think there's going to be some reasons why that might not be the best in terms of the way the embankments will be where the runway is. Maybe not as problematic for hay operations, but so I'm definitely on board with that. I think that once this project gets wrapped up, that staff should, we'll look into that and investigate, what the details of that would be. It's not something I'm necessarily familiar with. I don't have that much of a background in the agriculture side of things, but I think it's definitely worth looking into. The watersheds I have concerns about. So the ones I looked at were dams 1 through 5. So these are the dams on Harper Drive, corner of Unity, and K7, and right off of K7. Then I skipped 6 because it's kind of landlocked by the high school. And then I looked at 7, 8, 9. So that's the one behind Gerber Electric, which was the old armory. Number 8, which is out off of Pratt Road. You turn onto that little street called Parkview, I think it is. And then number 9 is out on US 73, heading towards Horton, across from the Express Loop. And then we have one out kind of, call it east of Warnock, number 24 off of, I want to say it's 272 Road. So I looked at those properties, and I didn't, measure it down to the exact square foot or the square acres, but just kind of estimating off of the total acreage and how much water was there and that sort of thing. All those properties, out of the 234 total acres of the parcels, I estimated about 75 acres that might be what we mow. And then from that, as I said, I'm not I don't come from that background. I don't know if the actual dam structures themselves would be something that people would even want to attempt to bale, because they're 3-to-1 slopes, which are pretty steep. And then the spillways, if they're earthen spillways, which some of them are, they also have similar slopes. So out of that 75 acres that I talked about, I don't know actually how much someone might be interested in attempting to bale. As I said, I think at the last meeting when we talked about this, I'd have some concerns about the proximity to residential areas of letting, if you imagine letting it grow up to be 2 or 3 feet tall, what the neighbors might say. I know that we've had complaints in the past when we've just gotten behind from people that utilize those areas, like fishermen, that they might, have complaints about not maintaining those fishing opportunities. People that, they receive nuisance notices for mowing. It's not uncommon for those folks to point to some city-maintained property and say, what about this? And that can all be managed, but it's just something to think about. The other thing, and it might be a little far-fetched, would be, we'd be allowing people to use equipment on our dams, which are inspected by and regulated by other agencies. So if there's any rutting or damage, or scalping, killing off grass, that sort of thing, that would be something to deal with. But anyway, long story short, I think that the amount of mowing reduction we might get is about $4,000 per season if we were to do something like that, $4,000 for fuel costs. And then from what I could research, and I don't know if this is the going rate in Atchison necessarily, but I was getting $15 to $20 an hour, $15 to $20 per acre per year for leasing hay ground. And so all those things, the fuel savings plus the potential revenue was coming around $5,000 a year, which is about 2% of the watershed's operation budget. My opinion as the director overseeing that is, I don't know that, well, I feel fairly confident in saying that my opinion is that $5,000 is not a significant enough savings to affect the recreational aspects, the aesthetics, the code enforcement, crossovers, if that makes sense. However, we serve at the direction of the city commission, so I would say if there's more interest in that, then I would recommend that the city commission advise staff to propose something a little bit more detailed, and the commissioners can vote on that, and we'll do what the commission wills us to, so.
Well, I think it's, I think we can, I don't know if we can charge any rent this year as late as it is because you can't fertilize. The fertilizer's not gonna have the same effect. I think if we could get somebody to just mow it, just sections of it, that you could kind of designate where you think it'd be a problem as far as ice and stuff. See, they'd be done mowing by like the 15th of July. Then we could just, but by haying it, you wouldn't get the regrowth that you get by just continuously mowing it.
Clinton, you mentioned some of your concerns, and then one of them you said you were concerned about the proximity to housing. So of the acreage that you looked at, how much of that would be in close proximity to housing? Because
So I'll just go dam by dam, I guess. Number one, so that I would say argue that the most of the acreage of number one would be right behind the houses that are on 3rd Street that are north of Harper, if you can kind of picture that. Number two, there's just a few houses, and that's kind of down the hill. I think there's a P Street and 7th and P, so I'm not sure what that, there's some trailers up there and a couple houses, 2 or 3 houses along 7th Street. And then everyone else is on the other side of the street from that dam. Number 3 is a little bit separated from, I want to say Locust Drive is up top of that. There's some folks on 10th Street. Number 4 is on the highway. The O and N maybe that separate, or not O, 13th and N might separate that from being the neighbors, but there's some folks on N Street that have border it. Number 5 is the one where everybody goes sleigh riding at the corner of Unity and K7. So there's some houses along Country Club Road there. There's some houses on Mound Drive. You go up to the top of the hill on the other side, you're looking at, Riley between 13th and 14th.
I think like on that one, you could mow a couple strips around the outside, around where the fishermen could, and hay the rest of it. And like I say, the 15th of July, like normal.
Yeah.
But you won't get the regrowth that you would normally get with a rotary mower. You get a rotary mower, you get a whole bunch of regrowth. I think it's something we ought to look in and try and do on a limited basis this year. I know some guys that'll do it. They might be able to pay something, but not very much this year. Just to kind of give it a shot and see how it works. If it causes a big problem, like quit it. $5,000 is $5,000.
it is, and I certainly understand, and also frugal as well. I have some concerns about perhaps, one, you had mentioned some code enforcement issues. 2, I'm just thinking just in general about possible vermin, snakes hiding in tall brush.
I would say I would go out there. I would say it. I'm 100% confident that someone, if not someone's, will call in and they will say, I've got snakes and rodents coming. Whether they actually do or not, I don't know.
Okay.
But that'll be the reasoning they use because they don't want the tall, unmaintained
I'm not the
property
smartest
next
guy.
door.
There's snakes and rats everywhere.
Not only that, but they'll be gone the 15th. We'll kill them all when we mow it in hand. Tell them that. I just think we need to do it. In fact, I'd like to move that we, I would be glad to work with Clinton, have these guys, and see if we can make something work.
Okay, it's been moved that we allow Clinton to come up with a plan to allow for pasteurization of...
Not pasturing, just hay.
Just hay, okay.
Just hay.
Allow the possibility of renting out the acreage for haying purposes. Do we have a second?
I've got a question. Maybe I
Yes.
asked this question before, but where do we stand liability-wise?
Liability for
Someone coming in with their equipment.
Someone coming in with their equipment.
like maybe they have an accident on our
Right.
property.
Right.
There would have to be insurance. there'd have to be an insurance component to the agreement and things
They've
like
got
that.
$1 million liability policy, which is the same thing you got on any of these contractors.
So would we be exposed as,
I think we would arrange it so that we would be as,
Minimal.
yeah.
you know?
It's the same way, we just did a contract.
But they'd have to have proof of insurance?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They can't just say, I got it.
No,
There's some other things. This is something that I would need. There's two regulating agencies that we deal with the most. One is Natural Resource Conservation Service, used to be the Soil Conservation Service, and then there's the Division of Water Resources through the Department of Agriculture. They're the ones that we come and inspect and that sort of thing. Typically, the dams outside, there's basically half of them are in town, half of them are out located kind of on private, usually it's farm ground, that we don't go mow routinely. We might mow it once or twice a year if they don't do something with it. But I don't know that, I can't say this for sure that they would be okay with this, but I don't know why they wouldn't be because we do it on the other dams.
well, I think it's agriculturally more correct to hay it than it is to continuously mow it all summer. I think the state would tell you that the brome grass would thrive better mowed once and then leave it alone.
Yeah. And that could be. I'm just throwing it there.
Well, you're looking for a second, 'cause we haven't got a second.
We
yet.
have not gotten a second, and the
Yeah.
clock is running. So I actually have one other question. You had mentioned code enforcement. Is this something that is going to run afoul of any code enforcement that?
And Curtis and I have had this discussion, I don't know how many times, not necessarily this topic, but this discussion over the years that, because we have a lot of city property, whether it's right-of-ways or the airport, the cemetery, the parks, you name it. And sometimes over the years, we've gotten behind. And someone might get a nuisance violation for mowing. They've let their yard exceed 10 inches or whatever it is. And they might say, hey, Curtis, what about, Romley Park, Reasoner Park, 73, whatever it might be. And I think Curtis would say, well, he might point out the fact that maybe their property is a quarter of an acre with a house and maybe a garage taken up, driveway, and whereas the city's got hundreds of acres of things to mow, and so if a rain event slows us down, that it just has more potential. We don't have the ability to mow for an hour a week. We can't fit our mowing in an hour in a week. So if we get rained out for 2 or 3 days, we're behind. And especially if you get 2 or 3 weeks of that in a row during the height of the growth season, it can add up quick. And so I think probably in a much more rehearsed way, that's probably kind of how Curtis would battle that stuff. I don't necessarily get those complaints. It'd probably be Curtis, but I don't necessarily want to add more to that, fuel that fire, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Mike, can I just, curious, make what the motion was again?
The motion, again, was to allow staff to come up with a plan to allow for the haying of this acreage
So
that
we're
we have.
basically just allowing a plan to develop if possible.
Yeah, and I'd be willing with him to.
Okay, I think Commissioner has a question.
It might come up that it's not doable. Go ahead.
I don't know that I have a say in this at all, but to get this down to a science, there's a little bit of work for me to figure this all out. And
Is that feasible?
so but it would take time from other things that I'm doing. So I don't know if maybe instead of a motion to plan for it, is the commission ready right now to say that they're interested in moving forward with a viable, assuming there is a viable plan, will there be commission support to move on with that? Because I'd personally rather not to use the resources to spend a lot of time delving into this and then be like, we really don't want to.
I agree, and
I would be more tempted to table this and put it off and say, do it next year, explore the possibilities, and see what the real cost savings would be, and go that way. The other question I have, Commissioner Slattery, are these gonna be big bales, small square bales?
I don't know, it makes a lot of difference. You think it would make a difference one way or the other?
Well, I don't know, yeah. I'm just.
They were talking about big bales is what they were talking
I'm
about.
devil's advocate.
The big round
And,
ones?
kids
The big
playing,
round ones?
Yeah.
kids playing on those dams and,
One of the things that we have to look at is every one of those dams is unique in where it sits, what the population around is it, and I think some of the real estate with the dams and the airport when we get it completed is going to be palatable for that kind of a thing. Some of them are not. I mean, it's like dam number 1. All the houses that are on 3rd Street.
But the airport right now is a no-brainer, it looks to me like, for this year.
But anyway, I'm going to second the motion because that way we can actually discuss it.
Yeah,
We're ahead of
that's
ourselves.
okay. We are. So at this point, we have a motion to, are you amending your motion?
Yeah, we can amend it, yeah.
Okay, all right. Yes,
I
Amy?
just want to remind you, like, as you're voting, discussing, Clinton's asking, I think, for consensus if this is something that at least 3 of you want to move forward with before he dedicates.
At this
a lot of
point,
his
I am
time.
hesitant to move forward with it. That's my opinion. I don't know the rest, but
I am too, at this point.
Who's that leave on the spot?
It's all up to you, Larry.
Well, I think it's a good idea. I don't know if the timing of it for this year is probably good, because it sounds like it has to be done before a certain time, Mike, is that correct?
Well, it'd be, the sooner the better right now, yeah. We just wouldn't want to have him go out there and start mowing it and then try to hay it, because that won't work.
Yeah, I think that.
He hasn't mowed anything yet, so,
Giving Clinton more time,
yeah.
think about it, looking at each of the dams individually.
Okay.
It's not been done to this point, so it's not like it's an emergency.
Right.
You wait till next year and say, hey, we can do it here, here, and here, and the airport, I don't know what the status of them will be by next year, but.
Well, we could look at the airport here in a second, separately.
True, but I think at this point, it would be best, we've been moved, we've seconded. I think we are all in agreement of going in a different direction, but at this point, we need to handle this motion. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion is defeated. At this time, I think that what would be a good idea is to have Clinton come back after we all have thought about this a little bit more thoroughly. Because I honestly think that Clinton needs more time, we need more time to think about.
What I would like I said, I don't have this background, so anything I'm researching, I would want to.
Okay.
What's the word? Acquire your consultant services to maybe even go around and look at some of these places, because I don't know if some of it's out of the question for doing that. The other thing would be like kind of work backwards from the time. So it's fertilization time right now. So we'd want to time anything.
Time to be able to do it. So I would also move then that we look at just the airport. Is that something that would be trouble-free?
The airport, I'm guessing, because of the gas line, is probably going to extend into spring of next year. And so I would be reluctant to make any commitment right now without knowing what the final product's going to look like with my own eyes. And
What about this year for the airport? You think we could,
there are some areas that are outside of the project scope that would probably be relatively safe. That would be a discussion I'd have to have with the consultant to make sure we're not going to be conflicting with construction activity.
I appreciate this, Mike.
No.
I think we're.
I'm okay. I'm okay, but I just think that that's something that we could do even this year at the airport myself.
Sure.
But whatever.
Okay, all right.
I'll let it die.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and thank you, Clinton. All right, at this time, we will go on to governing body comments. Commissioner Greenlee.
Glad to see the weather warm up. Ready for, we didn't have much of a spring, need some moisture, and leave it at that.
All right, thank you. All
Nothing,
right, Commissioner,
nothing.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Murphy?
I just have something that we need, I believe we need to focus on. I spoke with Amy about it a little bit. And the Bartlett elevator on Main Street, I was down by there Saturday when the wind was blowing 40 miles an hour, and there was a piece of steel that was flapping like a flag. And you know, that's a long way up, so I'm going to guess it's probably 8 feet by 6 feet. And I thought, if one of those things falls, somebody's going to get hurt or get killed. And I don't know, and I know Amy said it would be very expensive to demolish that structure. But we need, with all the possible grants we get in this city, it seems like we ought to find a way to get Bartlett to say, hey, we got a liability issue ourselves because they still own it. But I think ultimately we're responsible for the safety of citizens. And I don't know what path to take on that, but we need to start something. Not only that, it's ugly. And, you know, we tore some of it down to put in a brick sidewalk, but it's dangerous, folks. I couldn't hardly believe it. I lost a door that same day off my store, so that was an out of the ordinary wind. But that structure needs some kind of attention at the governmental level, and I'm not a big government guy, but this is something we ought to get either Bartlett, have some discussion with them, or find a way to get a grant of some sort.
Is there any current plan or anything with that building?
Good question.
We've staffed
Just sitting there.
Yeah,
It's sitting there for 50 years, 100 years, whatever.
Yeah, it's just.
So I believe it, I can't remember what year it is. I didn't have enough time to look this up since I knew we were going to talk about this, but I want to say it's either 2025 or 2026. There's some, in our CIP. It assumes some things, for example, a grant. So years back, we were looking at a CDBG grant. CDBG grants, in order to apply, you have to get an a preliminary engineering report that includes a construction estimate. There was an arrangement, a partnership being developed with Bartlett to do this. The preliminary engineering report came back with an estimate that was way outside of what the city and owner was able to do, so it just kind of died out right there. In the time after that, we got bids to demo part of it, the scale that was in the way of that sidewalk. And then we also threw in, hey, let's see what the number is for the whole thing, just for, you know, and it was a third of what the construction estimate was. However, I've recently talked with Bartlett. I don't want to put out a number there because it's just a verbal with one of their representatives. I believe that they would still be willing to entertain some sort of partnership to go in on that. It would be an eligible CDBG project.
Is or is not?
It is. I talked to the GAS folks that we talked about earlier, deal with the CDBG. What makes it not a great application for that program now, not to say it's ineligible, but it's just not a strong application, is that there is no plan for that site after. They want to see something, you know, see it turned into something.
More than just a demolition. They want to see something.
A new Murphy's gas station or something like that. Murphy's downtown.
I'll tell you what I know about it, and I'll try not to repeat what Clinton said. There has been a lot of effort to try to figure it out, and it's just never worked for one reason or another. There is a bit of good news, and it's that environmentally, it's clear. Grain elevators from the 1920s apparently often have some sort of a I can't remember the 10-syllable word chemical that was included in their construction, but it was negative for that and negative for everything that it was tested for. We did 2 years ago what's called a brownfields application, and the state paid for an environmental assessment, and it's clear. So that's really good news. The other reason why CDBG is a tough fit for it is because of the cost escalation component. Some of the folks that do pretty effective, fair price demolition work are not likely recipients of CDBG dollars for, trying to square peg round hole type of thing going on there. So there's a bit of good news there and a bit of tough news there. Last thing I'll say about it is that real estate on that side of Main Street, between there and the tracks, or you can imagine some sort of potential reuse of that space. There are a limited number of sort of redevelopment opportunities there because it's a very narrow, it's not a deep lot. So some of the things that you see on commercial strip centers are like highway style, suburban style developments in similar towns, fast food and dollar stores, that kind of stuff. Fast food fits there. Any sizable retail type thing doesn't fit there because you can't get semi-traffic around the back. The site's not big enough. Conceivably, like a tunnel wash, turn sideways. If you think about the new construction type stuff that you see in realistically communities like ours, that's the kind of the list of stuff that could fit there. And then lastly, I would say is that it's not the only site. Kind of look to the east and look to the west. Another consideration there that if you're going to spend several $100,000 or whatever it is, and you want that site to be marketable, you can look at recent transactions along the Main Street corridor and think like, okay, maybe that's possible. But adjacent parcels, the condition of those adjacent parcels factors into that, and there's a relatively tough.
My biggest fear still is one thing. There's going to be a point sometime.
Sure.
That thing's going to come down. If we don't take it down, it's rusting like crazy. And I'm no engineer. I have no idea, but I can almost assure you it isn't going to get cheaper in 5 years. And
no argument
so
here.
we need to be the aggressors at some level. And I'm not saying we need to be bad neighbors, but we need to find a way for everybody to win on it. And Bartlett may come up and say, hey, here's a piece of property. And I don't know. I'm just saying, you saw what I saw. It's pretty scary. I just don't think, if we're responsible, we need to push it. I don't want to push too hard because we don't want Bartlett's a valuable asset in our community. But they also need to be responsible for that to some degree. And if we can help them in some way with a grant of some sort, or I think we're all going to be better off. That's all I have to say. Sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner Murphy. No. Commissioner Slattery.
I think I'm taking up enough time. I appreciate everybody's efforts along that, though.
Okay. Thank you. And I echo with what Commissioner Murphy said about the elevator situation, because I've had people ask me about it as well, and I do agree that we do need to do something. And I do agree that we probably need to do that aggressively. So with that, thank you. At this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn to Land Bank. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Motion and second.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I moved too fast. Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
I second.
That was Commissioner Slattery moved. Commissioner Wilcox seconded.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so sorry about that. Ready to move on.